Welcome to Week 8 of the Mountain Valley News Pigskin Preview. I'm Monk Blevins, and today with us we have Mr. Sammy Smith. Sammy, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, glad to have you. Will is on some kind of trip today, couldn't be here, so I asked Sammy to sit in, and he graciously said he would do it. And so we're going to have fun today. You know,
we'll have fun.
First of all, man, it's 8 weeks already into the season. Which is really 9 weeks if you want to count week 0, which I've said several times on our show, I hate week 0.
Yeah.
But, hard to believe we're down to the last couple of weeks.
Seems like we've just been playing football just a couple of weeks, and I try to keep up with it around here as much as possible. And, hey, it's went by so fast, it's hard to keep up with.
Oh, it really is. Well, let me ask you this. Since you're new to the show, I guess, in the first 8-9 weeks of football season, what kind of surprises? Anything that's been a surprise to you? Any team, any player?
Actually, Plainview has surprised me. I knew they would have a pretty good year. I wasn't so sure that they would have this good of a year.
Yeah.
They've really impressed me. They've played hard. And Sylvania has surprised me. I mean, we're talking about the big showdown here, but
Absolutely.
That's the two that's really surprised me this year.
Yeah. Couple of the ones and those two, Sylvania and Plainview, have played outstanding. And, man, we get to talk about that later in this show. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a huge football game. But the other one that has surprised me a little bit has been Fort Payne Wildcats. After going 2-8 last year, they came back. Schedule is just brutal. First of all, they've lost to Etowah. They lost a close game to Coleman, I believe. And then last week, they played the number 2 team in the state to the wire, and lost that game, 17-7, I believe. So.
I listened to the end of that game on the radio, and they had chances there at the end of the game to come back and win that game, and they've really surprised me and impressed me. Of course, Coach Ellis always does a great job down there.
Oh, yeah, he's done an outstanding job at Fort Payne. Well, let's talk a little bit about last week's football games, and I've got notes here, and if you want to look on her, I'll just read the notes, and then you can just jump in whenever you get ready. The first game we'll talk about, Valley Head got a big region win over Galesville last week, 29-2, and they are the Mountain Valley News Team of the Week. So we'll actually be going up to Valley Head on Friday and presenting them with their plaque, and also, maybe, I don't know, but there is a possibility that Bum may show up. So,
that'll be a treat for everyone.
Absolutely. So we'll see how that goes. Frank Hester, a name I haven't mentioned any time this year from Valley Head. He actually had 2 punt returns for touchdowns in that game, over 60 yards on both of them. So, and he is actually the Mountain Valley News Player of the Week. So congratulations, Frank Hester, on a great game. It's kind of, you don't
well deserved, yes,
of 2 touchdown punt returns in a game. So
no, that's Valley Head has really stepped up in these last few games, and and we'll see if they can continue.
Absolutely.
But that was, like you say, a big region win.
They've got Woodville coming up this week, and we'll talk about that a little more later. But they got an opportunity to make the playoffs if they can win that football game. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But just a big win for the Valley Head Tigers, and again, Frank Hester had a great football game with 2 touchdowns on punt returns. Of course, Roger Kirby continues to play well for him at running back, and he's kind of the cog in the gear, I guess, if you want to say it, for them. He is just a steady football player.
Yeah, he's their workhorse. That's
Absolutely.
The name you hear most of the time. And like you said, Hester, I really haven't heard the Hester name a lot this year up until this week.
No, I had the opportunity to go up last week and watch them play Cedar Bluff. And they gave Cedar Bluff all they wanted. And Cedar Bluff is not a bad football team. As a matter of fact, they've got 2 or 3 players on that team that are Division I football players. And Valley Head gave them all they wanted. So, Valley Head's got a great opportunity this week, and we'll talk about that just a little bit later. Next game we want to talk about, the Eider Hornets. Man, they put a whipping on Gaston last week, 47-12, and need one more region win between Asbury and Westbrook Christian to get into the playoffs, which they play Asbury this coming week.
Well, they've got the opportunity. They'll step up. They've got the opportunity to do it. Both of those teams are beatable. So they've got a good opportunity here.
Yeah, and I don't know you know this, but we've talked about it a couple of weeks. Coach Tinker had called us after their win, not last week, week 4 last, and he had made a change after 6 weeks into the season. He moved his quarterback to running back, Ryan Adams, and put Chase Townsend at quarterback, and it seems to have worked well for them. They have racked up the points since they've done that. And, of course, Jacob Higdon is their stud at running back, if you want to say so. He had 3 touchdowns on the night, a 62-yard touchdown, a 5-yard, and a 1-yard. And then also Alex Brown, and we had him on another show here just a few months ago, and he's a super guy. He had a 15-yard interception return for a touchdown, and then also plays fullback and had a 36-yard touchdown on that. And then another name that I haven't talked much about this year, Gavin Weldon had a 91-yard touchdown run in that football game.
That's impressive.
Just a big night for Eider. You know, Eider's one of those teams that's just hard-nosed, love to run the football.
Yep.
And, you know, they've got a great opportunity this week to
They do. They
make
have
the
opportunity.
playoffs.
And Coach Tinker, I'm sure, will have them ready. Sounds like he's got the offense clicking, and as long as the defense can hold up, they're pretty good on defense. As long as they can hold up, it sounds like he's got a good opportunity for the rest of the year.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the next game we'll talk about was the Plainview Bears, you know, homecoming. And again, congratulations to Mallory Frazier, was the homecoming queen,
Yes.
and I know everybody was excited about that. So again, congratulations to Mallory on being Plainview's homecoming queen last week. But you know, Plainview defeated Brindley Mountain. I went blank for a minute, 41-6. You know, and a lot of players got to play in that football game. A lot of kids that don't normally get to play. And so, what was your thoughts on?
Well, there was a lot of different people running the ball. A lot of different people scored touchdowns. Luke Kirby got a touchdown in that game.
Absolutely.
I was happy for Luke.
Yes.
And, you know, it's just Plainview seems to be clicking on all cylinders. Like I said, they've impressed me this year.
Yeah.
So
They really have. You know, Clay Cooper had 144 yards on 10 carries and had a touchdown. Of course, Bailey Dukes, man, he was 11 for 12 for 152 yards, and also had a rushing touchdown. And then Cade Willingham had 5 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. And of course, we could go on, like you said.
Yeah,
the Kirby boy
so
had a
many.
touchdown, and then several other ones. You know, it was just a big night. And the good thing that I thought came out of this football game, the defense is playing well, was that they got to rest a lot of the starters for the big game this week.
yes, they did. They got to play a lot of people. Secondary got some depth in this. Linebackers, I've seen a lot of linebackers playing in this game, different linebackers. And then, like, a lot of people playing on offense. And like you said, Bailey Dukes played an outstanding game too. Clay Cooper played an outstanding game. Starting, you know, they just looked really good. And they're just kind of clicking. Bailey's making really good decisions right now, throwing the ball well, you know, and we've got some pretty good receivers out there. So they look pretty good this week. I was impressed with them.
I felt really good to watch after watching them play, and you know, no injuries to speak of, I don't think, in that football game. So again, you know, the big showdown this week. Sylvania will be traveling to Plainview, and hopefully, and I'm going to mention this, and I think we've got everything worked out, but we're going to go live on our scoreboard show from the game. We'll be starting at 7 o'clock and go till 10:30. So, and we'll see how that goes. You know, we may have to have some help, so I may be hollering at you during the game to come over and help us out a little bit. But it's going to be a fun football game, I think.
I think
it's going to be a really good competitive football game. So we'll see how that shakes out. Next, we want to talk about Fort Payne. You know, again, Fort Payne, man, what a, you know, if somebody told me that it would have been 17-7, and actually, you know, it was 10-7 late in the fourth quarter, and that Fort Payne could play Oxford as close as they did, I'd have probably said, you don't know what you're talking about.
That's exactly like Coach Ellis has got those guys believing. They have bought into his system. They're playing what he wants to do. They're doing what he wants to do, and he's got some pretty good players. You know, pretty good talent down there.
Yeah, you know, his best player, Carter Penholster, is out for the season, man, and you know, and I know that had to affect them, but you know, Colton Wales has stepped up for the Fort Payne Wildcats, and Michael Shaddix at running back, and they're both playing really well right now. And of course, J. Tyler Ellis at quarterback.
Yeah.
Coach Ellis's son is just like having a coach on the field. It's kind of like with Fife and Paul Benefield and his son. So, this Fort Payne team is playing well. They have Albertville this week, and I think they've got a great opportunity. It's homecoming, and I think they've got a chance of winning that football game.
I think they do. Like you said, you was naming all the offensive players that stepping up, playing good, and also the defense really stepped up this week against Oxford.
Oh, absolutely.
Holding Oxford to 10 at the end. Right at the end of the game, Oxford scored, but it was like 10 points for 4 quarters and 4 3/4 of a game. So the defense really played well this week.
Oh, absolutely. And again, Fort Payne. Coach Ellis has just done a fantastic job. Last year was one of those odd years for him, probably the only losing season that I can remember he's ever had. And so he's done a fantastic job, and he's got this group playing and believing they can win, even against a team like Oxford. So big game there for them. And again, this week a big rivalry game with Albertville, and I would love to go to that game. If the Sylvania Plainview game wasn't this week, I would go and watch some of that football game because I think it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah.
Next game we'll talk about is the Fife Red Devils, and there's just not a whole lot you can say about Fife other than they just win.
They just keep winning. They
defeated Collinsville 49-7 on Friday night. Peyton Anderson just continues to run wild. He had 188 yards rushing and also returned an interception, 66 yards for a touchdown on the game. And just looking at Fife, it looks like we might get to watch them in Tuscaloosa in the state championship this year.
It does. It's looking that way. I've looked around at the other teams from the north, and unless they have a rash of injuries or something at Fife, I think Fife's got a really good opportunity to be in Tuscaloosa this year.
Yeah, I do too. And Coach Paul Ellis, he just continues. You keep thinking, okay, this is the year that he's not. He's lost a lot of players, and they'll be down a little bit, but. Man, they just keep pumping them in there.
They do. They just keep plugging away.
And so he's got a great program going on down there, and and talk about Seth Benefield at quarterback, and again that's just like having another coach on the field. He always has them in the right plays. He's one of those, he don't make a whole lot of mistakes. And then I think the one thing, and again we haven't mentioned this a lot, but their offensive line does a great job.
They do. That's where they lost a lot of talent this year coming in. That's where you thought they would have suffered a little bit early in the year. Even though they had Peyton Anderson coming back, they have the Hicks kid back running the ball, and they had the quarterback, Benefield Seth, back at quarterback. I thought actually they may struggle a little early with the line, but their offensive line is just playing great. And like you said, when you've got the coach back there playing quarterback, I wouldn't have thought he was blessed with speed. But if he gets a hole, now he can outrun you. He can go.
He really can.
They're really playing well. They've got some really good, outstanding talent.
Oh yeah, defensively they play well. Of course, a lot of Peyton Anderson plays on defense, and man, he don't care to tackle.
That's right.
I seen him in the Plainview game. Man, he put on some wicked hits a couple of times, and and one person we don't mention, and I'll mention him because he's not a Plainview boy, but he sort of is. Parker Broyles plays on the line, and he's done a fantastic job,
yes.
and he's just done really good for Fife. So, Fife will be playing section this week, which is very winnable. I think, and I hadn't really looked at that close, but I'm pretty sure Fife's got their region already locked up. And if it's not, it will be locked up after tonight, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's probably, it will be.
I mean, Friday night, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
I wish it was tonight. It seems like football night already. But anyway, this Fife Red Devil team is just rolling on all cylinders right now. So we'll see how that goes. Next team we'll talk about the Crossville Lions, man, and they started out on fire. 5-0, I think, on the season, or 4-0, and lost to a good Etowah team. Let me think I'm saying this right. And then they lost to Gunnersville this week, which is Gunnersville, has lost one game and ranked in the state, and lost to them 28-0. But Coach Miles Holcomb has done a great job with this Crossville Line team. He's taken them from one game in the last 3 years each year to up to this point. Looked like they had 5 wins, and but man, brutal schedule.
The second half of their schedule is brutal.
Absolutely.
They're playing all the very top teams in their region.
Yeah. He lost to the Sylvania Rams in a close football game. That's the one I was trying to think of. And then surprised, come back the next week and lost to a Boaz team, which I think most people thought they would win.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Gunners, this week they have Etowah this week. That's what I'm thinking about, which is going to be a
really tough game. Yeah.
And then they have Alexandria next week. So, and then they finish up the season with Geraldine. But this Crossville team, Blanton Jones moved to quarterback this year, and he has probably talked to a couple of coaches, Sylvania coach, Nick Ledbetter, and he told me at that time that Blanton Jones was probably the best athlete in the county.
Yeah, I think he is. He is probably one of the best athletes. He left Crossville at one time, went to Albertville and played for like a year.
Yeah.
And then came back to Crossville and stepped in now as quarterback, and he's just an outstanding athlete. He can do everything, and he has really carried them a lot early in the season.
Oh, absolutely. He has kind of carried the load for them, and the bad thing looking at Crossville, very talented. If they were playing any other classification, they would probably be making the playoffs this year. But it's going to be very hard for them to get in with the schedule they've got. And, man, I hate that so much. I'm so proud of what they have done. Of course, I've got 2 kids that teach down there.
Yeah.
And, and they're real excited about what's going on. And usually they get on to me if I pick against Crossville. So I have to pick them every once in a while.
Yeah.
But they've done a fantastic job. Coach Miles Holcomb, he is a Crossville boy, and he stepped in when they were struggling and has really – those kids have bought into his program.
Well, when you look across that coaching staff down there, you see all these players that were big-name athletes at Crossville that are back on that staff.
Oh, absolutely.
And they were all really good athletes when they were there. And people like that can get these kids fired up and get them playing well. And like you said, Coach Holcomb keeps it all together. He's doing a good job there. I look for Crossville to just keep improving.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. I think,
like you say, I think they'll have a little struggle here at the end of the year. They're playing some really good teams, and it may be hard to get into the playoffs this year, but they could sneak in. And then again, next year they could.
Oh, absolutely.
I
think he's building that program from junior high up, and I had the opportunity. I talked with my son last night, and he was actually at a junior high football game, and he said their junior high program is very good. And Coach Holcomb is very involved in that junior high program, getting those kids ready to step up into varsity.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right. I think you'll see this team just get better and better and better as long as he's there coaching.
I think so.
Next, we'll talk about, and again, the Sylvania Rams. Man, what a football game they were in last week. They, beat Geraldine 17-15. Most people, well, maybe I shouldn't say most people. I didn't think it would be near that close, and but this Geraldine team gave them all they wanted.
They did, and Geraldine had a chance there at the end. I think they may have kicked the onside kick or something, and Sylvania got it and run the timeout.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But they scored there close to the end of the game, went for 2 and got it, and made it 17-15, and it's on then,
Oh, yeah.
Anything can happen there.
Oh, absolutely. Coach Waldrop at Geraldine has done a great job, and of course, he is another one of those Fife or Paul Benefiel disciples, so he knows this offense just as well as Coach Putnam knows it, so there's nothing probably that's really a surprise to either team when they're playing each other.
Yeah,
and
right.
The Shavers kid has just done a fantastic job, and he ran, he had a touchdown in that game. I'm not sure how many yards, but I know he had a lot of yards in the game. And of course, Blake Spears has stepped in at quarterback, and if anybody would have told me last year, losing Roebuck and then losing their quarterback, that they would be where they're at today, I'd have thought, nah, there's no way. But those kids have stepped up.
That's right, they have. And like you say, these names were not known at all last year. There's so many new names on this team. And Coach Putnam's got them really working hard in the weight rooms. If you'll see their team, you see they're a lot bigger and stronger than they have been. And these kids that you're talking about now, the Spears kid, and they are just, they're names you didn't hear last year, and they've really stepped up this year, and they're taking their place like they're supposed to. So
yeah, Paul Griffith on defense. He was injured last year and didn't get to play. And early or before the season started, I had ran into him at the up at the Wing Fest. I was up there for a while, and man, I couldn't believe the muscle that kid had put on. And they have a great weight program. And, and I think that shows in these football games. Very physical football team.
They're very physical.
And I'm telling you, man, this game, Sylvania Plainview, and I can't wait till we get to start talking about it. But that's going to be a great football game, I think. So we'll see how that shakes out. But Geraldine, Geraldine hung tough with them. Austin King had a touchdown. Brody Henderson had an 18-yard reception for a touchdown from Thomas Willoughby. Thomas Willoughby at quarterback has played just a hard nose. Talking to one of the fans who was up at the game, and he said that, man, that Willoughby took an awful beating on Sylvania, but he would get right back up and back at it again.
Yeah.
Said he's probably one of the toughest players they'd ever seen. And, of course, David White at running back has done a great job for them. And, this Geraldine team is not bad. They're not bad. They're probably, if they can hang on, I think they've got New Hope this week, North Sand Mountain next week. Should win at New Hope. North Sand Mountain, that should be a pretty good ball game. Probably what's going to happen there, just looking down through the schedules, the winner of North Sand Mountain and Geraldine will probably be your 3 and 4 in the region. That's my thought right now, but I'm not positive on that.
That's if it goes the way the season's been going, that's very likely.
Yeah. So, but again, this Geraldine team is a very physical football team, but and 3A Region 7 is a tough region.
It is.
And
good talent.
What surprised me, North Sand Mountain, of course, they were off last week, but, they're a good football team. They didn't play great against Plainview.
Yeah.
But since then, they had Sylvania tied at half. And they're not a bad football team either. So, that Geraldine and North Sand Mountain game, not this week, but the following week, should be a great football game.
Yes, it should be.
So we'll see how that goes. Next, we got section lines, and Coach Luke Powell took that program over, and of course they got a late start, but man, they came out on fire. But boy, they've run up on a wall the last few football games, and they lost to Sand Rock 34-6. Excuse me, didn't see any of that football game, but I read a little bit about it. First quarter, they turned the ball over. I don't know how many times. They were down 27-0 in the first quarter.
Well, then they came back and played a good game the rest after that. And Coach Powell, he'll get this program turned around. And Coach Powell's a good coach. And as you see, when they started out winning some games. So you could tell he's getting them, gradually getting them to buy into his system a little bit. And he's run up on some really good teams here.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little stretch there, some really good teams.
Not a bad team, and you got Fife coming this week, which he's in. Unfortunately, he's in one of those regions that's got some good football.
Yeah, he does.
But Ryan Gray, who plays quarterback for him, continues to play well. He was 13 of 23 for 149 yards and a touchdown. Ethan Clark had 4 catches for 53 yards. And they're not a bad football team. A lot of these kids haven't played in a long time or haven't never played. I know when they got over there, Coach Powell told me that he was trying to get some of their athletes who just played basketball on the team, and they've actually done that. They've talked some kids into coming out, and and I'm like you, they'll build this program.
I think they will. By sections basketball programs, they've got some athletes over there, and like you say, Coach Powell's talking them into playing football. He's still going to do nothing but go up from there. And he'll be able to compete in this region in another year or two.
Oh, absolutely. He only had like 20 days to get his program in before the season. So, considering where they're at now, I think, there's no.
It's a big step.
Yeah,
yes.
He's taken a huge step. So, and I think you're right. We'll see this team just get better and better. And next year, I think they'll be a very competitive football team. Next game we'll talk about was Pisgah. They traveled over to New Hope, got a big region win, and mathematically they are not out of the region yet. Had a big win, 34-22 over New Hope. John Barrett had a great game for him. Another name you don't hear a lot about from Pisgah. He had 99 yards on 15 carries and had 3 catches for 45 yards. And then the name we normally hear, Houston Bell. and he had 86 yards and 3 touchdowns on the night. So a big win for the Pisgah Eagles, and this, I think, looking at the schedule, of course, I think they've still got a couple of tough games to play, and so we'll see how all that shakes out. Of course, they got North Sun Mountain this week. And,
that's the big rival game.
Big rivalry, and if they could win that football game, they might sneak in the back door for the playoffs.
They might do it.
We'll see how that goes, but again, just a very great, a lot of good football this last week. Any surprises in any of the games to you?
Well, just the ones we've talked about. The Fort Payne game was a surprise. Fort Payne having a chance to win it. Geraldine playing with Sylvania, playing outstanding. I knew Geraldine would be in there at halftime. I knew Geraldine has talent, and they're good for a half, and then they kind of, I don't know, they kind of wear down a little bit. I don't know if the numbers, maybe the numbers or something, they don't have the depth, but they play as good as anybody for their first half. They played good with 5 for the first half.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was kind of surprising when I heard that score, and that was two that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah. The Sylvania and Geraldine game to me was probably the most surprising because I did not see that one coming. But again, it's real easy, especially with a big game like coming up this week, to kind of look ahead. Plainview was fortunate enough, and I'm don't take anything away from Brindley Mountain by any means, but Brindley Mountain is struggling right now, and a kind of a building a program, and so Plainview had an opportunity to play their starters and let their starters rest the second half. So we'll see how that helps them out this week. I'm not sure, but we're up against a commercial break, and we're going to go to a commercial. And we come back, we'll talk about this week's games, and then at the end we get to pick them. So we'll come back from a commercial in just a minute.
Southern State Bank in Rainsville, we excel within the walls of our bank and outside these walls too. We're actively working with area schools to improve classrooms and supporting area student athletes on fields and courts. We work and worship at most churches in the Rainsville community. We also work to enhance the lives of area seniors, thanking them for a lifetime of contributions. We're the bankers and corporate citizens at First Southern State Bank. True community banking.
Are you in the market for a new or used vehicle? At Donahue Chevrolet, we have over 400 vehicles priced to move. Our new Chevrolets are employee price, plus you keep all the rebates. That means savings as high as $10,000. From the moment you walk in the door until you drive off in your new vehicle, we guarantee a sales process that puts your needs first. And don't forget, our on-site GM certified technicians are always here to ensure there are many worry-free miles in your vehicle's future. Come by Donahue Chevrolet and expect more from your local Chevy dealer.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
All right, we're back from the commercial, and man, it's that time now. We're going to talk about this week's games, and man, there's some great football games this week.
They are. There's some good ones.
And the first one we got on tap, Valley Head will be traveling over to Woodville. This Woodville football team, of course, they're not in our area, and we don't talk a lot about them, but they beat R.A. Hubbard earlier in the season. And a lot of people probably don't remember who R.A. Hubbard, but I'm sure they remember Cortland.
Yeah, they remember that name. If you remember Cortland, that's that's.
And so Woodville's not a bad football team. I know last week they got beat by I can't remember, but they got beat pretty bad by someone. But this Valley Head team, very impressed with what they've done over the last couple of weeks. When they came back from their open week, they made some adjustments, and they've been playing well. So what's your thoughts on this football game?
Well, I just, looking at Woodville and Valley Head, I think it's going to be a really tough game because it's at Woodville. I think it's going to be tough for Valley Head. But I actually think Valley Head's going to win this game. I think, Hester's realized that he can do it. He's got the speed, and you got the workhorse Kirby all the whole game. I just think
Yeah,
I think they can handle it.
I've been very impressed watching this football team. Just like I said, I've seen them a couple of times, and Kirby is a big kid too. And when I guess when I went to the game, I was expecting them to be small, but they're not a small football team.
No.
They've got some big kids. They just don't have many kids. I
Right,
think they only have 18, 19 players now on the team. They started out with 20 something. Now they've got a few hurt, but it's going to be a great football game. And man, I'd love to see Valley Head, sitting at 1-3, I think, in the region, but with a win, they can sneak in there. And a lot of people say, well, a 2-3 record, they shouldn't go to the playoffs. But and I can see that. But the one thing I think is this gives some of these younger kids an opportunity to continue to practice, continue to play, and help build for next year.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I don't think many people expect them to win the state championship, but I just think it'd be a good opportunity.
Any extra time they have, it's going to be a good opportunity for them. When a team starts out, like that, they get to 2-3, in the region. Some of these regions are really equal playing, and you could easily lose a couple of games before you could get going good.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's kind of the way Valley Head is. They lost a couple of games early, and now they've got to win them to get back in.
Oh,
so.
Absolutely. And again, very competitive against a good Cedar Bluff team, and probably that was the game I watched that probably should have won that football game, just to be honest with you. They dropped the ball a couple times, turned it over on just some kind of, I don't want to call them freak deals. They just handed the ball off and the running back's running and he just drops it.
Yeah.
Things like that just normally don't happen. But, this team is much improved from where they were earlier in the season and last year. Next, we got, Etowah be traveling down to Crossville. Etowah's ranked, I think, last I saw, maybe 4th, 5th, somewhere in that neighborhood.
They're up there.
And, just a good football team coming to Crossville. Crossville has been very competitive, and it would not surprise me if Crossville don't play Etowah a good football game. So what do you think?
It wouldn't surprise me, but yet Etowah's really strong. But if they overlook Crossville, they could be going home with the L on their list.
That's exactly right. This Etowah team would be very easy for Etowah to look ahead, down the road to thinking, this Crossville team, especially if they're thinking about how they were last year maybe, and so you never know how this will shake out. This Crossville, they've got enough talent to play. I think probably Etowah is going to be a little too much for them physically. If Crossville could throw the ball on them, maybe that might help. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that shakes.
Crossville's still building. When you got a team that's still building, and you've got the athletes like they do, they have a chance. But like you say, Etowah's already there. They've been building for several years now, and they're up there.
Right.
Coach Knowles has got them,
yeah,
built the program up really well. So it'll be a uphill battle for Crossville. But I can't count them out because they've impressed me this year. So
Crossville score. I mean, the Gunners will score last week. If you look, it's 28-0. But I think it was only 7-0 at halftime. So this Crossville team by far is not a bad football team by any means. The next game we got Adder. Adder will be traveling to Asbury, which really they'll be playing at Adder because it's Asbury's home game, but they'll be playing at Adder.
Yeah.
Adder, great opportunity. They get the win this week. They've locked them a spot up in the playoffs. So, very impressed with what Coach Tinker's done. He hit a little streak there and played a couple of tough games. Really played 5 better than the score looks.
Yeah.
And, then they had to play a good Westbrook Christian team. But, this Idler team, 15 seniors and not bad. They're a hard-nosed running football team.
He should get to rest some kids in this. I know Asbury's really small school, really small numbers.
Yeah.
He should get the lead early and then get to rest some of his kids for the next week.
Yeah, looking at next week, I know they have Westbrook Christian, which Westbrook Christian's not a bad football team. So, a win this week, man, lots on a playoff spot. And I meant to look this up, but it's been several years, I guess, since Idler's been in the playoffs. I can't remember.
I can't remember exactly when they were.
But Coach Tinker's done a great job up there, and he's just a great guy.
He is.
We were up there last week for their pep rally, and Channel 48 was there, man, and that's one of the loudest places I've ever been to. Man, they were pumped up in Ider last week. So, they've got a great opportunity to lock a spot up in the playoffs, like I said, and, it's one of those things that just helps those kids going down the road. Just getting an opportunity to play in the playoffs, I think is huge. Next we have Sandrock will be traveling to Collinsville. Collinsville, very young football team, only have 3 seniors on that team. Before last week, they actually got about 5 players hurt. And so 5 of their starters did not play against 5 last week. Not sure that would have made a lot of difference.
Yeah.
But it could have made some difference.
Well, it does make a difference when you got 5 starters out. And I don't know if any of them will be back against Sandrock, but again, Sandrock's a pretty strong team as usual, like they always are.
Oh yeah.
And it might be, if Collinsville don't have their players back, it could be a long night.
Yeah. Talk about Collinsville. The McKinney kid for Collinsville has a very good athlete, and of course their quarterback Caleb Jones is he's probably as good athlete as there is in the county, and so they are capable of making a game out of this. And the one thing that I've noticed with Ernie through the years, when you think he's out of something, he'll surprise you.
Yeah.
And so you never know what he's going to pull out of the hat there. So this game this week, it'd be nice to see Collinsville get a win.
It would.
They need one really bad, but that's going to be a tough task with Sandrock. They're playing well. Geraldine at New Hope. Geraldine comes in after a tough loss to Sylvania. Not sure. I haven't heard that they had any players injured. They're not going to be able to play, but they got a great opportunity for a win this week.
Right. They're going over to New Hope, and my understanding is New Hope's coach had resigned earlier this year.
Oh, really? So now
their Coach Chadwick. This was, I think, his first year.
Yeah, he had just taken the program.
Well, I think he had resigned like a week or two ago, and so New Hope's probably, I don't know who's taking over the program over there, who's coaching right now, but that's a great opportunity for Geraldine to get there, and
Yeah, the one good thing playing New Hope this week, hopefully they can get their starters in there. Get a good lead, get their starters out, rest them the second half, and give them an opportunity to get ready for North Sand Mountain, which will be a huge game
which is huge,
next week. And like I said, it looks like the winner of that game next week would probably wrap up the third place in the region, which I don't know how big that is, but it has to be pretty big. If you're in 4th place, you're always playing the best team in the region. So that's probably a good thing if you could finish 3rd. So we'll see how that shakes out. Next we got 5 traveling over to section, and for the section, it's probably not a good way. It's probably not a good game to have to play right now. Coming off a couple of losses, and playing a team ranked number 1 in the state in Class 2A, and
two
well
times,
deserving to be number 1 at this point.
Defending state champion. They're they're hitting on all cylinders right now. 5 is. But like I say, Coach Powell is building. Just don't let this get to them. This one.
Well, it's just like we've talked all season. There's no shame in losing to 5 because everybody does.
That's pretty much it right now. Yeah.
If you play 5, more than likely you've lost to them.
More than likely.
So, this 5 team, and I can't say enough about Coach Benefield and what he's done. He has built a phenomenal program at 5, and again, when you think surely at some point they're going to get, they're going to be a little bit. Not as good, I guess is the correct word to use. Not as good this year because they've lost some great players. They just plug another one in. Reminds me a lot of Alabama and Coach Saban.
Yeah,
it really does. The way 3 or 4 years ago, when the Stiefel kid was playing at running back, nobody thought they could replace him. Here comes Kilpatrick.
Exactly.
He breaks every one of Stiefel's records, and now playing at the Alabama A&M, I believe.
Yep.
And then, you're thinking, well, they can't put anybody else. And I'm not sure that Peyton Anderson isn't going to break all of those records.
He's liable to. He's got another year after this.
Absolutely.
And he is just running wild right now. He's speed. He's got some size. You look at
he
Peyton,
is.
You wouldn't think he's that big.
Yeah, he really is a good size. And I don't
he's
know.
a big kid.
We were talking about this, and if I was guessing, I'd say he's 6'1", 190 pounds, probably
he's
at
pretty,
least.
pretty good looking back. And
Yeah.
like you was talking about weight programs a while ago, Coach Benefield's got the great workout program down there.
Oh, yeah.
And Coach Benefield is there watching those kids work out, making sure they do the work,
Yeah.
And so he really does a good job with them. And if you're there, you will get bigger.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
faster, and
looking at 5 schedule, after this week, they have Gaston next week, which is very, very winnable football
Yes.
game. So, it looks like unless something crazy happens, they're going to go 7-0 in their region or 6-0. I'm not sure how many region games they play now. And, of course, they have Cleveland County at the end of the year. My understanding is Cleveland County is not near the football team. They've been in the past. I have not looked at their record. But, looks like this
they've got a chance to go undefeated again.
5 is going to be undefeated once again.
Yeah.
As of Friday night, they have won 23 straight.
Regular season games.
Yeah.
They're on a roll. They've won, I think, how many years did they say they'd won 10 games?
Oh, my gosh.
It's been so many years they've won 10 games. I want to say it's more like 16 years or something.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
It was a long time.
It was a long time they've won 10 games a year.
3 state championships in
It probably hasn't been 16.
5 years, is that right?
Yeah.
2 state, 3
3 and 4, right?
3 and 4.
I think it's 3 and 4.
So, and I'll be shocked if they're not playing in Tuscaloosa in December. 2 of 4. Yeah,
got a chance to win.
They got 3. They played in 3.
They got a chance to win.
Should have won that one probably. But I'll be really surprised if this 5 team is not playing in a state championship come December. So we'll see. Next game, and I think this is probably, other than maybe the Sylvania Plainview game, I think this probably will be one of the better football games of the night. You got Albertville traveling to Fort Payne. Coach Dale Pruitt, a longtime Plainview guy. Down at Albertville.
And the former Fort Payne guy.
Former Fort Payne guy.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so they'll be traveling to Fort Payne, and, he's done a great job at Albertville. They're not quite as good this year as they've been in the past, but, they will be ready to play Fort Payne, I promise you.
I can promise you they will. Fort Payne's a pretty strong team. Albertville, I thought Albertville was going to have a really good year to start out the year, and they've struggled a couple of games. So, it depends on which team's there.
Absolutely. Really, you look at this Fort Payne and Albertville team, they kind of are both in the same situation, kind of play some of the same teams and have lost to a couple of the same teams. So I think this is a very competitive football game.
I think this is.
And the other thing I like about this game is it'll be a very competitive halftime show between the bands, too.
Yeah.
And so, this whole this is just a competitive thing going on in Fort Payne on Friday night. But, Fort Payne, I think they've got healthy after having a couple of their starters back. Colton Wells is back for them. Shaddix was beat up a little. He's back. J.C. Grote has come back. And, they need those kids to compete against Albertville. And I haven't kept up with Albertville a whole lot. I listen to a little bit of their talk show, usually on Friday afternoons, Friday nights. But, I know Coach Pruitt is working them hard, and Coach, of course, Luke Pruitt does a great job with the defense, and so it's going to be a great game.
I think it is too.
Is there anything
Coach
what would have to happen here for Albertville to beat Fort Payne? If I think Fort Payne probably wins this game. That's just my thinking.
Probably Albertville's just going to have to play one of their better games. And on defense, they're going to have to hold Fort Payne down, not let the kicker, McPherson, not let McPherson get to midfield.
Right, and we haven't even mentioned him, what a weapon.
I'm telling you.
Number 1 kicker in the nation, and that's what even against Oxford, I told somebody before they played, I said, if they can hold Oxford and just stay and get across the 50-yard line, they've got a chance of scoring.
Yeah. Early on when Oxford had got ahead of them there, maybe it was close to halftime, and it was 3-0 Oxford, and Fort Payne hadn't got to the 50, so they couldn't tie it up. They hadn't got close yet. So, you expect him anytime they get across midfield or there's a chance to score.
And punting and on kickoffs. He is,
he
has kept them in some games that they probably wouldn't have been in if it hadn't been for him. And, I'll say this again. I think I say it every week, but if we let this kid get out of the state of Alabama, there is something wrong.
I know. And it looks like he may go out of the state of Alabama.
Yeah, last I heard he was kind of committed to Mississippi State, I think. But, if Jeremy Pruitt or Saban are watching their show, which I doubt they are, but if they are, go get him.
Get him. We need that kicker.
Yes.
But, you know, Albertville's Coach Pruitt and Coach Luke Pruitt, you know, they know Coach Ellis so well. Both of them know each other so well. They know what each one of them is going to do. You know, they've coached together for years. Luke played at Fort Payne when Coach Ellis was assistant coach for Coach Pruitt down there. You know, so they all know each other really well, know what's going to go on. So it's going to come down to this player versus this player, and you know, and see who wins the battles.
I think you're exactly right. Next, we'll talk about North Sun Mountain. They'll be traveling up to Pisgah. North Sun Mountain comes in after a bye last week, but man, I tell you what, this North Sun Mountain team, after the Plainview game, they really have turned it around. You know, Landon Green at quarterback has just lit it up. You know, I wasn't that impressed when I saw him play Plainview, but since then he has done a phenomenal job, averaging about 180 yards per game passing. Austin Hill, his wide receiver, is, you know, averaging about over 100 yards per game catching. So this North Sun Mountain team is not bad.
Yeah, this will be a good game. This one, like you say, this one right here, if North Sun Mountain gets by this, then they'll be playing Geraldine probably for third or fourth place in the region.
Yeah.
So this is a huge game for them, because if they don't beat Pisgah, then they're not in that situation at all.
That's exactly right.
And
you know,
so this is big for North Sun.
And big for Pisgah. You know,
it's
Pisgah's
big
got
for
an
Pisgah.
opportunity, even though they have struggled this year, they have an opportunity to work their way into the playoffs here if they could figure out some way to beat this North Sun Mountain team. And you know, Pisgah has some very good talent. Like I said, the Barrett kid had a great night, and their quarterback Wiesnant has played well for them. So don't think North Sun Mountain will just run away with this football game.
I don't either. I think Pisgah has a chance here. They've really got an opportunity to show that they've improved this year, and I don't think Pisgah would actually quit. You know, you saw them play section the first game of the year. Of course, that was the first game of the year, and they got behind the section, but they never quit, and they ended up coming back winning the game. Yeah. So you don't think they'll quit, and this being a really big rival game for them, kind of, because North Sun Mountain's just up the road.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to be a great football game. And then the next one, I think, is the one that probably most people, especially around our area, has been talking about. And I don't know that they probably have had it marked on their calendar for a long time. I know I've thought about this game, and we've talked about it for several weeks now. You know, if things went like we thought they would, that, you know, this thing would be for a region championship, and that's where it's at.
That's where it's at.
Sylvania comes in, they're sitting 7-0. They're 4-0 in the region. Plainview comes in at 6-1, 4-0 in the region. So something has to give this week.
That's right. We're going to see who's got it this week for sure.
Absolutely.
Like I say, Sylvania's big and physical. Plainview's big and physical this year, though. They got some big old boys. You know, it kind of depends on how our passing game goes, I guess, at Plainview. And if we can run the ball enough to open up the passing game. And then our defense depends on if they can slow down Sylvania's running backs.
That's exactly right. You know, the one thing I know, the Shavers kid, you know, if he gets on the corner,
he can hurt you.
It's going to be hard to handle. But, you know, this Plainview team, defensively, they've played well. You know, Jacob Wooten at linebacker, probably as good a player as in North Alabama at linebacker. Physical kid. And we don't talk a lot about him, but he's a great offensive player, too, a good weapon at offense. So, you know, for Plainview, I'm like you. I think Plainview has got to throw the football some.
I believe you're right.
You know, with Sylvania, I think they can run the ball to set up the pass. With Plainview, I think they're going to have to pass the ball to set up the run.
Yeah, that's our two philosophies, I guess you'd say.
Right. So,
that seems to be our philosophy at Plainview. And like you say, Sylvania runs the ball a lot. So they only pass basically when they have to.
Right. And, you know, Bailey Dukes has done a great job. He's improved as the seasons went on. You know, didn't have any turnovers on Friday night as far as, you know, interceptions. So, and we've got some great receivers. You know, Cade Willingham, he's got the knack to get open.
Exactly.
He'll find a way to get open, and then also, you know, Jacob Wooten at tight end, and man, a huge weapon there with him.
Yeah.
So, I think this is going to be one of the better football games. Sylvania, very physical. Like you said, if you see them, they're just muscle on muscle, basically.
Yeah.
Plainview, probably not as physical as Sylvania. A little more finesse, I guess, is the correct word. But I think it's a very good matchup.
I think it is, too. You look back over the years, it's been a long time since this game has meant as much as it does.
You're
this
right.
week. It's been a long time since we've had the real big showdown. And, I mean, we've had some big showdowns between these two over the years. But, I expect a big crowd. You better get there early and get you a seat.
That's
this
exactly
is going to be
right.
a good game.
That's exactly right. But, man, again, that's going to be a great football game. And like Sammy said, you better get there early if you want to see it. There's going to be a packed house there. And I just think this one's going to come down to the wire. This one's a tough one to pick.
It is.
I think they're very evenly matched, though, in different ways.
Exactly.
I think with Plainview and, defensive backs scare me for Plainview a little bit if they have to pass, how well we can play the pass. But we'll see how that goes. And, we're getting close to break, and we need to run through a couple more here, and then when we're going to come back, we'll get to actually pick them. But, the next game we'll talk about Tennessee coming to Alabama, and, Butch Jones is in trouble. I mean.
Exactly.
And,
I actually thought he would be gone Sunday, but then again, you don't fire your coach before you play Alabama. You might fire him after you play Alabama.
That's true. That's true. So, Alabama, now I will say this: Tennessee always plays Alabama.
They do. You have to look at that.
It won't be. They'll be ready to play Alabama because it is Alabama. Next, we got Auburn to be traveling to Arkansas. I guess the other surprise of the week was LSU beating Auburn when Auburn had a 20-point lead.
Yes, that was a surprise.
And so, traveling to Arkansas is not an easy task.
Nope.
I know they're starting quarterbacks out, but they had a monster quarterback
goodness.
playing last week against Alabama.
They had
6'7" and 260.
They had an Alabama defensive lineman playing quarterback for them.
That's exactly right.
Man,
so
he was huge.
I think this will be a good football game. I think Auburn probably wins the game, but who knows?
I mean, Arkansas is capable. You go into Arkansas and play them there, it's a different game. Yeah.
And then the last game we got on tap, we got Michigan to be traveling to Penn State, and Penn State is playing some great football. Franklin took that program over after all the everything that went on up there.
Yeah.
And, man, he has built a great program up there.
He has. And Barkley, the running back, is like probably already got the Heisman in the bag.
Yeah, unless something crazy happens for the rest of the season.
He is unbelievable running back.
Michigan's not a bad football team, struggling a little bit. Lost to Michigan State and was in a pretty tight game last week, and so
this is an opportunity for them to show what they got.
It really is, and if Penn State wins this one, man, it sets up a huge game the following week with Ohio State.
Exactly.
And probably the winner of that one's going to be the Big Ten champion, or get to play in the Big Ten championship anyway. So, man, great football games this week. We got to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we get to pick them. So we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to run them down.
Folks, this is Andy White down here at Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City in Fort Payne, Alabama. I want to invite everybody to come out to our new location. We're at 1411 Glen Boulevard, right where you turn to go on Airport Road. We've got plenty of inventory for you to choose from. I got cars, trucks, vans, sport utility vehicles of any make and model. Come down here and visit us. Let us see what we can do for you. If you got some slow credit, I've got some banks that'll take care of that. We've got great financing, got a great selection of cars. Y'all come down here and see us.
Don't take the first deal that comes along when you can do better at BobbyLedbetter.com and Twin City Used Car Sales, located at 1411 Glen Boulevard in South Fort Payne.
Listen to some of Johnson's satisfied customers.
Everything exceeded our expectations. No one will ever work here other than Johnson. We give them an A+. The crew was awesome.
This is the third company that installed a unit in my house and the first that did it right.
Don't you want to know what type of person is working at your home? All of our employees must pass a background check and are subject to random drug testing. We won't send anyone to your home that we wouldn't trust in ours.
Call Johnson Heating and Cooling today, Alabama's largest and most awarded TVA dealer.
college is more than an education. It's a bridge to your future. Plan your future. Envision your future. Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
All right, we're back. Sammy, it's that time, and I know you pick in the paper, and so
yeah. Let's
just go down the list here. And hey, actually, you're just one back right now. You're one back from Margie Mountain. I don't know how in the world she's doing so good.
I don't know who's picking Margie's games for her, but it definitely can't be Margie.
That's exactly right. Well, first one we got on tap is Valley Head traveling up to Woodville. Who are you picking in this one?
Well, I think Valley Head got on the roll last week, and I believe the boys will get it done at Woodville this week. I think they go over there and bring home the win there.
I'm picking Valley Head too. I've been impressed with what they've done the last couple of weeks, and I just, it's just a hunch, but I think they may get the win, so I'm going with Valley Head. Next, we got Etowah at Crossville. Who are you picking?
Well, I think Etowah's still just a little bit too strong for Crossville right now. Crossville struggled a little bit, so they, I think Etowah takes this one.
Yeah, I think Etowah wins this football game, but I think it will be closer than maybe some people think.
Yeah.
So, next, got Ider at Asbury.
Yeah, Ider.
Yeah, Ider shouldn't have any trouble in this football game. I think they lock up a spot in the playoffs with this game this week, and we'll see where they go. If they can beat Westbrook, they might get to move up a step in the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. Sandrock at Collinsville.
I'm gonna go with Sandrock, even though it's at Collinsville. Collinsville's, like you said, they've had some injuries, and I think Sandrock will go down there and beat them.
I think Sandrock wins this game.
You're talking about a game closer than it appears. Collinsville and Sandrock really don't like each other. So this it could be closer than we think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this will be and I would not be surprised if Ernie don't pull a rabbit out of the hat and win this football game, but I'm picking Sandrock anyway. So maybe Ernie will prove me wrong. So next we got Geraldine traveling to New Hope.
I think Geraldine will be too much for New Hope. I believe they'll.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. I think they can probably rest their starters second half in that game. And Fife at Section.
Well, Fife is just too much for everybody around here this year. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go with Fife.
I think that's a huge game. And then the next game, Albertville at Fort Payne. Who you picking?
Well, I'm picking Fort Payne. One reason is because they played Oxford so close last week, and the other reason is because it's at Fort Payne. If it was at Albertville, I might think about it a little differently, but I think Fort Payne will get it done at home. Yeah, I'm going with Fort Payne too. Evan McPherson, man, such a great weapon, and so if they can get it across the 50-yard line, they got a shot. Yeah. Albertville, and I guarantee you one thing: Dale Pruitt will have that team ready to play on Friday night. I'd love to go to this football game, but not going to get the opportunity. But I think it's going to be a great football game. But I'm picking Fort Payne to win. Yeah. North Sand Mountain at Pisgah. Well, it's at Pisgah, but I think North Sun Mountain's just still a little step ahead of Pisgah this year. I think North Sun Mountain will win this.
Yeah, I'm going with North Sun Mountain too. I think this Pisgah team has improved as the season went on, but I think North Sun Mountain has too, so I feel like North Sun Mountain gets the win. And then the next one, the big one, you've got Sylvania at Plainview. Who are you picking?
Well, I have to go with the Bears. They're at home. I don't know. It's just one of those rivalry games. Anything can happen and probably will happen. I've seen crazy things happen in this game, and I'm just going to stick with the Bears at home.
Yeah. This is going to be a tough football game, and I think I'm right. 2 years ago, Plainview won that game 7-0. Tight football game over at Plainview. Last year, of course, Sylvania pretty much dominated Plainview up at Sylvania. But the one thing that I've noticed, this Plainview team plays pretty good at home.
Yeah.
And, I think Sylvania is very physical, like we said. But I just think Plainview's going to win this game. I think they're going to find a way to win the football game. So I'm going with Plainview too. And then next we got Tennessee traveling down to Alabama.
Well, what can you say? Roll Tide.
Oh, absolutely. Alabama, I think, wins this game. Maybe not as bad as I think in my mind they will. But, there's a very good possibility Butch Jones will be looking for a job after this Saturday.
Very, very good possibility.
Next, you got Auburn traveling to Arkansas.
I think Auburn gets back on track this week in Arkansas. If they get their running game going really good again and just quarterback plays solid, their defense kind of let up a little too much last week for some reason. But
Yeah.
I think Auburn goes to Arkansas and gets it back on track here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this will be a close game, but I think Auburn gets the win, and I think the defense will probably play a little better. I'm not sure. I know they got a couple of injuries on defense last week. And in our last game, we got Michigan traveling up to Penn State.
Well, I think Penn State at home and with Saquon Barkley, I think they are way too much for Michigan this year. Michigan's now they've got it turned around up there. Coach Harbaugh's got it going and making everybody in the country mad about something. And
yes.
So Penn State's already mad, and I think I think Penn State's just got a lot of talent this year.
I do too. I'm picking Penn State too. I think they're looks like, and you never know, but I think they might sneak into the playoffs as one of the 4 teams.
They may. If they win the next 2 games, they will be probably.
Yeah. And again, I know next week's a huge game for them, but that's going to be a great game. Well, man, great football games this weekend. Man, I appreciate you coming on the show today and helping me out.
No problem.
And man, I tell you what, if you guys get an opportunity to go out and watch some of these football games this weekend, high school games, man, some great football games coming up Friday night, and no excuse not to find one to go to.
They're everywhere. There's
absolutely,
games everywhere,
and then a great weekend of college football.
Yeah, it is.
And so it's just going to be another great week of football, and man, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll be right back here next week, and I tell you what, this playoff picture is going to start getting a lot clearer after this week on a lot of these teams, and we'll be back here to talk about that next week. And we hope you'll be here with us. God bless each one of you, and we'll see you next time.
Building your dream home is one of the great joys in life. At First Southern State Bank, we know construction and mortgage financing, putting today's low rates to work for you. As you and your family move closer to the completion of your new home, we know that your home is where memories are made and families grow stronger year after year. At First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, Scott Kirk stands ready to tailor the right construction loans to meet your needs, along with our staff of experienced loan professionals. Drop by to share your dreams with us today in Rainsville. First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, all the bank you'll ever need.
Hello folks, this is Greg Anthony with Team One Chevrolet in Gadsden, Alabama, bringing you an event that other dealers say can't be done. They don't know Team One Chevrolet in Gadsden, Alabama like I do. We're racing to sell 200 new and used automobiles for the month of September during our inventory wipeout event. This event is so big, Etowah County has not seen anything like this in years. Come and be part of the biggest event ever. It is Team One Chevrolet in Gadsden, Alabama. Inventory wipeout, racing to 200. I'll see you soon.